Welcome back to the Lucas Bros podcast. My name is Chad, and with me is my brother Ryan. And today we are discussing some of our favorite and most influential movies. And so let's jump into it.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we're discussing favorite movies. So do you want to go first?
Yeah, we had to come up with, we targeted coming up with 3, which narrowing down to 3 is super hard. I feel like most of the time you could probably even think of 10 or 5, but 3 is tough. What did you have?
So I agree. Coming up with my top 3 favorite movies was challenging. So I actually decided to put them into categories of just all-time favorite movie, movie that has been most influential to my life, and then a movie that I just think everybody should see.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's go 1 and 1 and 1 and 1.
Yeah.
So you should start with what everyone should see.
First, what do you like for you? Why are movies important? Why do you watch movies? What's a little bit of the why behind even thinking about movies beyond just entertainment or something to fill our evenings with?
That's a good question. I really enjoy movies because it's like a long format universe that you can make that I think is just a really cool art form that's obviously relatively new. And I think movies can take you to a different place, so they can be like a good escape from reality, or they can be a good escape to a reality that you want to see or that you want to learn something from. So yeah, that's why I really enjoy movies. And I think the more I've in college, a lot of our mutual friends studied film. My roommate studied film, and so I think that was when I really got to understood it a little bit more as an art form, that there's different ways to shoot it, different ways to think about it, different ways to lay out the story. And it's a really cool thing to pay attention to, and it's enriching to pay attention to it. There's
so many different mediums in it. When you talk about the art form of it, there's the story, plot, story length, right? You have short films, you have long films, and you have all the cinematic lighting, the way it's shot, the frame rates, so many more, the way the audio is edited, the way it's cut up, just so many different elements that go into it. Not saying that other art forms don't, but music, you're going to have an audio component. Maybe paintings, you have just one single frame. And yet with movies, there's really just a complex dynamism to to every element within it. The score, the soundtrack,
scoring.
Very cool. I would agree. I think it's a great way. Sometimes it's a great escape and it's just entertainment. I think about back in olden times where it was probably, hey, you sat around the fire, and then actually like Homer with the Iliad and things like that, where you just sat around the fire and you listen to these stories and you learn something about it. This is sort of our modern day fire where we sit around and share stories. Very cool. All right. Well, let's start off. What was your top one? What do you want to start off with?
The first one I picked, and when I think about favorite movies, one of the ones that always comes to mind is Fight Club. That's one of my all-time favorite movies. I think you and I actually watched it together the first time I ever saw it. And I really, what's fascinating about it to me is I think art is really interesting when it is something that maybe looks one way at the surface, and then as it unfolds, evolves into something totally different. So like one of my favorite painting artists, Kindy Wiley, does that same thing with his art. It starts, you look at it at a surface level, and it's like kind of, you think it's one thing, and then the closer you look and analyze, it turns into something like much more rich. And I thought Fight Club was kind of like that. Like when I first watched it, or when I first wanted to watch it, I was like, oh, cool. It's a movie about fighting, and like, it'll be like street fighting and interesting. And then you like unfold it, and it turns into this like really fascinating commentary on masculinity and being a man today. And even kind of like speaks to what men and people need in life in terms of camaraderie and purpose and challenge and adversity. And it's like, wow, this is really complex. I thought I was just going to watch a movie where two dudes punch each other, but it's like so much more than it's got a psychological thriller type narrative to it. So I just thought that ever since then, I've been so fascinated by how it like unfolds like that.
The complexity and depth that each time you watch it, you're getting something a little bit different.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Mhm.
What do you think in terms of that movie, the social commentary on it? Do you agree with it? Do you disagree? And there's a couple different in there, so you could pick what you think.
What I agree with a lot of his, like you might say that movies try to construct a reality that's close to truth or try to present a truth. And I think he presents a really fascinating truth in that movie, which is that I think men, especially younger men, need something that challenges them. They need to feel a sense of purpose, and they need to feel a sense of like camaraderie, togetherness. And the, plot of Fight Club, in a sense, is these guys who are kind of aimless, and then they discover that in the Fight Club. And it's like, okay, probably not the best outlet for that, but it shows how if you don't have those, purpose to your life as a man, you're going to end up in a situation like that, which the Fight Club then turns kind of south and becomes more than just guys hanging out wrestling in the basement. It turns into like, kind of a dark thing. And so I think that is really fascinating. I think what's most fascinating too is that it came out pre 9/11. And so that to me was like, wow, really interesting, because art always kind of gets to truth first, I think. And in the end, this is the spoiler alert, they end up turning into this almost terrorist type organization. And it's like, wow, like this is what this guy is predicting. Hey, this is what happens if you have a culture of aimlessness, where guys don't know what to do with their time and don't know what to do with their purpose in life. And then they end up in something like that, and they find purpose in that, and it can turn south really, really fast. So that I think was the biggest takeaway for me, if you will, or the biggest part that I think he kind of nails reality in that sense.
Interesting. Yeah, it really presents a dichotomy between the consumption materialism that he is the life that he's in, that he's defined by the things that he owns and his stuff.
Right.
But yet it really presents not the Fight Club as potentially, I would say, not as the alternative, but a really dangerous alternative to that.
Yeah.
I think that while I wouldn't necessarily recommend that movie because of some of the other qualities and things that are in it, I think that you could get the same message across without having to, the vulgarity and everything. But I do think it shows how really we have to be really careful with where you direct young men, because it's either going to fall into consumerism and consumption being defined by your things. And I love the expression, you can have things, but don't let your things have you.
Yeah.
But yet in the absence of religion, and specifically, for me, thinking about the Christian religion, in the absence of that, the alternative is a lot of just sort of violence and a trying to feel anything in our modern world.
Right.
And I think that Christianity blends those two things, where we say you can have things, those things don't have to have you, but also there's an alternative, which is this loving, peaceful mission, which is to bring peace, which is ultimately what they're trying to kind of do, yet they do it in such a violent, destructive way.
Yeah.
And Christianity really offers that good alternative to that. So it's an interesting commentary.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
What was one of yours?
I was kind of thinking that that might.
Yeah, that's always up there for me. I feel like I talk about that movie a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the top movie for me is definitely Inception. And so when I think about just, hey, all-time favorite movie, thing that I could just watch over and over again, thing that movie that I've thought more about than any other movie, definitely Inception. And I'd say a couple of the reasons why is, for me, it just holds a special memory. I saw it for the first time. I think I was in high school. I can't recall when it came out, but I think I was in high school. And we went to see it at the Cine Capri at the Harkins movie theater in Arizona. And that's, for those of you who don't, it's not an IMAX size screen, but it's a huge screen with a great sound system. And that initial scene when the waves are crashing against the rocks in the dream world, and he wakes up, I just remember hearing that crashing sound and just being, oh, this movie is going to be different. There's just going to be something palpable about this movie. And then I just loved it. And it was just that blend of all the artistic elements, the soundtrack, everything. I just remember it being the first movie that I was ever enthralled with, of just saying, wow, that was really well made. It was just so different than any other movie that I'd ever seen before. And then I'm a sucker for any movie that plays with time. So it's a really hard battle for my top all-time favorite movie between, and I know they're all Christopher Nolan movies, but
big Christopher Nolan guy.
Yeah. Between Inception, Interstellar, and Tenet. And those are my three favorite Nolan movies. And they're all playing with time, right? The time in the dream space, time as it relates to gravity and interstellar travel, and then time as it relates to entropy and reversal. And so I love any movie, even other movies that play with time, like Groundhog Day or Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt, like where their days restarting. Love any movie like that. So Inception totally scratches that itch. And then, as you know, I've dabbled in lucid dreaming for off and on for different years and different things. And so just the whole fact of playing around in the dream space and becoming aware of it and the things that you can do and can't do in the dream, that's all just right up my alley. So Inception is definitely one of those mental ones that I just think about all the time and enjoy.
Did that movie start you on the curiosity of lucid dreaming?
I knew you were going to ask that, and I honestly can't remember which came first.
Yeah.
I think I watched Inception first, but didn't know about lucid dreaming, and then learned about what lucid dreaming is later on, and was so enthralled by it that was probably one of the reasons why there was like that desire to understand and explore our dreams more. And that Inception kind of was the early exposure to that. And then as I more academically studied lucid dreaming, became aware of just the potential and possibilities. And then that just made Inception all the more interesting.
That much more cool because it's maybe a little bit possible.
Yeah. So Inception would definitely be up there for my all-time favorite movie.
Yeah, I think that I knew that was going to come up.
You knew that was coming.
Always, I think that's been your favorite film since it came out.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's been the running favorite for, I don't know how many years now.
Yeah.
All right. So number 2, what do you have?
Number 2, was kind of my more like fun one. And what I thought about for number 2, again, I mean, there's probably a list of 10 movies up there that I would always say are some of my favorites, but number 2 is Grand Budapest Hotel. And kind of like, so kind of like yours, I think some of it's attached to like the memory and the time that I watched it. So at the time I was living in Alaska, working on a roofing crew, and we would come back just like dog tired every day from roofing all day. We'd work, 12, 14-hour days and barely have enough time where like we would eat and then like immediately try to put on a movie. So we watched a lot of movies that summer, but it's like, okay, if we start a movie right after we eat, we can like get, just a couple hours of like not having to do anything or think about anything and then still get enough sleep to work the next day. And what I loved about that movie, especially in that season, was like the main character is like kind of in this, he's like works for this hotel, but he's like, they call him a lobby boy. So he's basically just a little kind of like task rabbit kind of guy. And he has to do all these little tasks and he's kind of a peon like in the movie. Like he's always like forced to do the grunt work. And that was the position that me and my buddies were in the whole summer of like, okay, you're basically like, like just barely above like getting paid and you're like just all the grunt work goes to you. And so that movie always like had a special place in our heart. And Wes Anderson always has a unique style. I think at that time too, that was like, I think it has kind of peaked. I think that was like peak Wes Anderson times where that was like still kind of like unique and in vogue and different and like still like, wow, what is this? How does this guy make this whole like aesthetic of these films work? And it's so different. And so I think like all that combined, like that made it really one of my favorite films of all time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I can't say I know that movie at all. I think I might have seen it and maybe on an airplane or something, but I couldn't tell you anything about the plot or what happens. So that's out of left field. I did not expect that one.
It's been a minute since I watched it. So I might, it's kind of like maybe you have those ones too where it's like, man, it was so good at the time, or any experience, like it was so good at the time because of all the things. And then I'm like almost a little bit nervous to watch it again because I think it would let me down for sure.
Yeah, like memory.
It's like that restaurant you go and you're super hungry, like, oh, it was incredible, and then you're like, it probably will never go again because it's probably not going to be that good. It
is really cool though to think about. I remember that season of your life when you're up in Alaska, and I think you were living out of your truck or something at the time for part of it. And so it's just such a unique and interesting season working on a roofing crew in Alaska. And so that's neat to think about what, just the entertainment that you're having there and how, just more about your life during that time.
Yeah. What was so you said you had an all-time favorite, which was Inception. and then you had a one everyone should watch. What was the other category?
The movie that's been the most impactful on my life.
What would that one be?
So that one is The Family Man with Nicolas Cage.
Okay.
So I watched that one in college. And for those of you who don't know the plot of The Family Man, because it's not as well known of a film, essentially there's this guy, so Nicolas Cage's character, and the movie starts off with him getting ready to leave on this work trip. He's going to take this internship in London, and his girlfriend at the time is essentially kind of saying like, "Hey, like, what do you just stay? Like, what if we just stay together and let's just go get basically simple jobs?" Or somebody said like, "No." He says, "No, like, I'm going to go do this internship, and then I'll come back and we'll we'll make so much more money and everything." And so he basically chooses the job, and they end up breaking up, falling apart. And then it fast forward several years, and he's now this Wall Street guy. He has all the trappings of success. He's done, he's got this crazy penthouse apartment and everything. And he's just, again, kind of the world standard of success. And one day he has this sort of life and death encounter, and I don't know if it's the angel of death or if it's the Ghost of Christmas Past or something. It's kind of a Christmas movie, but he basically gets sent back into his life as if he had chosen to stay with that girl instead of taking the internship. And he's now living in this small home in suburbia. He's got a couple of kids and the budget is super tight, and he's working now instead of this like high power, he was like a mergers acquisitions pirate guy or whatever, like high power guy before. Now he's working in his father-in-law's tire company. And he has to basically come to terms. He's like, man, like this guy whose life I now live in sucks. And he hates it. And he's trying to get out of it and trying to get back to his powerful life. But then as time goes on, he starts to recognize all the value of that family life and like his love for his wife and his love for the kids. And he starts to then embrace the life of that just like simple suburban dad, and starts to recognize that other man, the man whose life he's living in, who's him just kind of in this alternate universe, was extremely self-sacrificial, that he like stopped his job to go help out at the tire company because the father-in-law had a heart attack or something like that. And he starts to like recognize actually the value of that self-sacrifice as this family man. And eventually, I won't spoil the ending, but that one just stood out to me because when I watched it during high school and college, I was very much so, I was an international business major. I wanted my life to look like what his life was at the beginning of the movie. The trappings of success. I wanted family to be valuable to me, but I think I was discounting the value. And at the time, before watching it, if I had had that choice of, hey, go do this international internship or be with the woman that you love, I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to go do the international internship and do the business thing. And that movie just really showed, it helped me see the future of what does that lead to? What are the results and the consequences of those choices? And lo and behold, at the end of my college tenure, I was graduating with an international business degree, was looking at internships that would take me overseas and doing the international business thing. And yet I was dating my wife, Bree, at the time, and had to make that decision of, do I go and take a job like that in an internship that would take me across the world and try to make the dating happen? Or do I take the simple little sales job that's going to help me pay the bills in my little tiny Southern California apartment? And I choosing Bree and to stay with her. And so I made that choice. And I think The Family Man was a big, just recognizing that and kind of seeing that story play out and that plot really made a big impact of me choosing to stay and have a simple job where I could stay with Bree. And we were very serious. We wanted to get married and just continue to date her. And so that movie had a huge, it's continuing to have an
monumental impact.
Now I get to live and see the value of living the dad life and having kids wake you up in the middle of the night last night and being covered in diapers and all this stuff and everything. And yet I love it. And so thankful for it. So
do you think that, I wonder what was going through your head the first time you saw the movie, and then like, what was that dialogue like? And then as you kept thinking about it, did your internal dialogue start to change?
When I first saw the movie, the dialogue was really around, it was shocking. It was almost convicting of that. Really? I put so much hope into the successful world of business and the desire to do that, and that I wanted my life to be on that track so much. And I think I was thinking that would solve a lot of things, that's what I wanted. And so I would say when I initially saw the movie, it was mostly convicting to say, wow, I really shot in the wrong direction here from what I want, and didn't think about what are some of the outcomes and what are some of the consequences of pursuing business and success and all those trappings at any cost, and where is my value actually at?
That's crazy that it's like a not things that's very like a divine appointment, because things don't usually always convict super fast like that.
Yeah.
You know, like often the first time you see something or encounter a new perspective, you're kind of like, that's nonsense.
It was one of those movies where when I initially saw it, it was like for the next couple of days, I was in the kind of a daze of just thinking about like the worldview was shifting a lot in response to that movie.
Wow.
Yeah. Maybe not full worldview, but just a lot of preconceived notions and ideas and life directions. It was shifting, and it was happening very quickly of recognizing from that movie.
What a blessing. Like, imagine you had seen that even several years later and been further down the path. Or I mean, I don't know how old the guy is in the story, but probably like middle age. Some people don't discover that until much, much later, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So number 3 for you.
Number 3 for me is also kind of a curveball, but actually kind of falls back into like the psychological thriller drama type movie. And that is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind with Jim Carrey.
Okay.
Yeah. And what I like about that movie is, again, kind of psychological thriller, explores like mental space. Inception's way up there for me too. And this was kind of like a, I don't know, maybe almost more playful version of that, where he's the story explores this reality where you can, if you have a relationship with somebody and you break up with them, you can go to this clinic and they'll erase your mind of all the memories of that person. So on the surface, everyone is like, oh, this is great. I don't have to remember my ex anymore. I can just forget about everything that happened. I don't experience that pain anymore. And then, of course, you know, there's problems with that. And so then Jim Carrey, the protagonist, is going back through his memories and trying to unravel, like something goes wrong at the clinic with this procedure. So he's got to go back and kind of like unwind what happened when he took this procedure. But I think it's really fascinating because the concept that it explores is like, okay, is romantic love in this case, but I think love in general with, you know, an imperfect person, is that worth it? Because you're going to experience a lot of pain and that person can hurt you and you can do a lot of damage to each other. But I believe in the end, the film resolves like, yeah, it's still worth it in the end to pursue somebody, to pursue love, to experience close relationships, even if they're going to cause you some pain.
Kind of almost similar to the expression, better to have loved and lost than to have never loved at all.
Exactly. Yes.
So
exactly.
a whole movie, that's kind of fun.
You
to
could
think about
boil a whole movie down
to that. But it's neat to just, like we said about the artistic expression and how you get to play with the plot. You just get to take that simple concept, but expand it and really have people connect with the characters' lives and think about it in their own terms and what they'd be like, and having emotional empathy for what's going on in the movie.
There's a C.S. Lewis quote that's kind of similar to that. I don't remember the quote exactly, but it's like, hey, if you never want your heart to get hurt, I got a perfect solution for it. Just put it in this nice little box, and you could even call it a coffin, and then just put it on the ground, and it's never going to get hurt down there. And that's like the whole concept of the movie, explored to like a really ridiculous end, right? Like going to a clinic, erasing your mind. But that's what I like about it, is it kind of like extrapolates this thought really far.
It would be really fun to try to boil movies down to just one simple known expression quote, and just boil it down to that and see if we could take each movie down to every single quote.
I think good movies you probably could. Good movies, I think, and good quotes often, right, are really profound and concise. And I think you could probably do that with a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one other thing I was going to say about that, about the quotes or the movies like that. But anyway, yeah.
What was your third movie that you think everyone...
Oh, really? What do you think it means, Eternal Sunshine on the Spotless Mind?
I think it's a weird title, right? I think the concept of the title is you could have like the concept of something being almost too perfect. Like you could have eternal sunshine if you had a spotless mind without blemishes or bad memories or anything. And I think it's like the exploration of the concept of having a quote unquote spotless mind.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's my interpretation of the title / movie.
All right.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I've always just heard it and never thought deeper on it.
It's a weird title.
It is. Okay. Last movie for me. This is a movie that I think everybody should see. It's up there. It always competes with some of my top favorite ones, but it's not a movie that I just watch all the time. But movie that I think everybody should see. And I'll caveat is that I think it goes without saying, like, everybody should see Passion of the Christ.
I was going to ask if that was what it was.
But so I think that that's kind of the overarching one, because no better thing movie presenting the gospel and the suffering, the Savior. But so I'll kind of caveat that that's knowing.
That's like caveat. The favorite book has to be the Bible.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. One of the movie that I think, and I love, it's just such a well done movie, and that I think everybody should see is Amazing Grace. So that's the one about the slave trade and about the abolition of the slave trade in Great Britain, and William Wilberforce's work to work with the group to abolish the slave trade. And it really paints a great picture of Wilberforce's faith and the role that faith and the Christians played in that abolitionist movement and bringing it into the awareness. But beyond that, it also takes Wilberforce, and it doesn't just portray him as somebody who was working to abolish the slave trade, but it really shows him as somebody who had empathy for human suffering, whether it was just the lowly servants or beggars and people like that, where he really had a heart for people and their suffering, and was somebody who had power in the government, yet used that power for, and honestly to his detriment, right? He was ridiculed and laughed out of it many times and had his reputation tarnished, but for others. So it's really a great portrayal of, in a somewhat more modern society, being somebody who's being self-sacrificial at the highest levels of government. So I think it's a great story, a great testament to that. And the way that they eventually abolished the slave trade there, in this sort of circumnavigating the anti-abolitionists through this kind of strange law that would essentially put an end to the slave trade without actually abolishing it. I just thought it's so creative, and it's such a good lesson for us too, that sometimes the most direct approach is not necessarily the most successful. And so when we think about what good we're trying to do in the world, sometimes I think I know I can get a little bit just like, this is right, this is right, this is right, we got to do this. And there's a way to bring about a good end through still just means, but maybe not the direct means, which I think is really important. Again, I want to caveat there that a lot of people say, hey, whatever, the ends justify the means. And I'm not saying that. I'm saying that sometimes we can think about, I need to go through this very direct means to get to this end. And the story shows that there can be a similar end, but using an indirect means that's still just and legal.
He finds a loophole and uses this loophole for the means that he was trying to accomplish, because he was just hitting his head against the wall also there. Yeah.
And even just the complexities of working through government and having to compromise and having to work with people who don't agree with you. So there's just a lot of good things in that movie. I think everybody should see it.
Crazy to think about. Yeah, crazy to think about that. Like, you put yourself back in that time. I think the movie does a pretty good job of like trying to put you in the frame as best you can, the frame of mind of someone 200 years ago. But like, what a crazy time, and what a crazy like desire he had to do that, which is really, profound impacts.
Yes. And it also too, I'd say, does a really good job of portraying the horrors of the slave trade without having you walk away, or without it making that the main thing. It helps you to understand the horrors of it and how important it was that they were abolishing that, without it being an entire movie just about the horrors of the slave trade, which sometimes movies can get there. And again, it's important for us to recognize how horrible that was. But the movie does a good job blending that and helping you to have empathy and understanding for that, while focusing on the work that was being done to abolish that.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This has been fun.
Yeah.
Doing movie review. We might have to do this again and maybe do some categories.
Yeah. Any honorable mention that would almost make it to the top 3?
Ooh, definitely Tenet.
Yeah.
I kind of said that before, but that's a movie that I could just watch over and over again. And obviously, too, has to say Top Gun or Top Gun. Really, I love Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah.
It's such an awesome movie.
Yeah.
So cool. Love that one. What about you? Any honorable mentions?
The one that I just have to think about, especially because there's a little Lego thing right there, is I just watched it the other night. It's called Piece by Piece. I don't know if you heard about this.
No.
It was the story of Pharrell Williams, a producer and musician. And he wanted to tell his story of, how he became a musician. But it's told with like Lego animation. So it looks like the Lego movies, but it's about this guy. And you realize during the course of watching it, how many hit songs he had been involved in. And it's kind of crazy. Like literally everything that was on the radio, basically from like 2000 to 2015 has Pharrell Williams' hand in it. And I just watched it the other night. It was super fun. Really, really good watch.
Neat.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for a little coffee table discussion around our favorite movies. And we will see you again next time.